It was a chilly autumn evening when I found myself in the midst of a nerve-wracking quest to recover my stolen iPhone. Little did I know that this journey would take me through a maze of emotions, suspense, and unexpected encounters that would chill me to the bone. My day had started like any other, with a mundane routine of work and chores. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, I was jolted from my monotonous existence by the piercing sound of shattered glass. I rushed to the living room to find my window shattered and my heart sinking. My iPhone, resting on the coffee table, had vanished. Panic set in, and I immediately dialed 911 to report the break-in. The police were on their way, but I knew that time was of the essence. That iPhone held more than just contacts and apps. It was a repository of cherished memories, photos, and videos that I couldn't bear to lose. In a moment of desperation, I remembered the Find My iPhone app. I grabbed my laptop and logged in, praying that it would help me track down my beloved device. The map showed my iPhone's location in real time, and it was moving fast. With a racing heart, I hopped into my car, determined to catch up to the thief. The app's blue dot chased the red dot, taking me through dimly lit streets and alleyways I'd never ventured into before. The tension in the air was palpable, and the eerie silence only added to my fear. As I followed the trail, I couldn't help but think about the person on the other end of the line. Who were they? What drove them to steal my iPhone? The possibilities ranged from petty thieves to tech-savvy criminals. My imagination ran wild, and every shadow seemed to hide a potential threat. The pursuit led me to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. The app indicated that my iPhone was inside, and I could almost hear my heart pounding in my ears as I cautiously approached the entrance. The building creaked and groaned in the night, creating an atmosphere of sheer terror. Inside, I was greeted by an eerie silence, broken only by the faint sound of footsteps echoing through the darkness. I followed the noise, clutching my phone tightly, and finally came face to face with the thief. The confrontation was intense, with emotions running high as I demanded the return of my precious device. But what happened next was the most terrifying twist of all. The thief, a disheveled stranger with haunted eyes, broke down in tears. He confessed that he had stolen my iPhone in a moment of desperation, hoping to find a lifeline in a world that had left him behind. He never meant to hurt anyone. In that chilling moment, the lines between victim and villain blurred, and I was faced with a moral dilemma. Should I call the police and have him arrested, or should I show compassion and understanding? As I pondered this choice, I realized that this harrowing journey had taught me something profound about the complexity of human nature. In the end, I chose empathy over vengeance. The thief, realizing the gravity of his actions, reached into his pocket and handed me back my iPhone, and offered him a chance to start anew, hoping that he could find a path out of the darkness that had led him to this desperate act. As I walked away from that abandoned warehouse, my iPhone safely in hand, I couldn't help but reflect on the incredible journey I had just undertaken. It was a tale of unexpected twists, fear, and redemption. A story that would forever remind me of the capacity for both darkness and compassion that exists within us all. It was a chilly autumn evening when I discovered that my iPhone had been stolen. The air was crisp, and the leaves rustled beneath my feet as I walked home from a quaint cafe, clutching my hot cappuccino. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows on the deserted streets. As I reached for my phone to check the time, my heart skipped a beat. My pockets were empty. Panic surged through me like an electric shock. I retraced my steps back to the cafe, but there was no sign of my beloved iPhone. It had vanished without a trace. Desperation set in. My iPhone wasn't just a device. It held my life within its digital confines. Memories, contacts, secrets, and access to my entire world. It was my compass, my connection to loved ones, and my protector in times of need. With trembling hands, I reported the theft to the police, who offered little hope of recovery. They suggested I use the Find My iPhone app, but I had little faith left. Nevertheless, I opened the app and initiated the search. The pulsating blue dot on the map showed my iPhone's last known location, an abandoned industrial building on the outskirts of town. The building stood like a monstrous relic from a forgotten era. It was shrouded in darkness, with shattered windows and graffiti-covered walls. I couldn't believe that my iPhone had ended up in such a forsaken place. Driven by equal parts fear and determination, I decided to go there myself. I hailed a taxi and told the driver to take me to the eerie location marked on my screen. He hesitated for a moment, then reluctantly agreed, warning me that it was a dangerous part of town. As we approached the building, my heart pounded like a drum. The driver stopped the cab a safe distance away, and I stepped out into the cold night, clutching my cappuccino for courage. The building loomed before me, its silence broken only by the occasional howl of the wind. With the Find My iPhone app as my guide, I cautiously ventured inside. The interior was a labyrinth of decaying corridors, and my footsteps echoed eerily in the darkness. The app showed my iPhone's signal growing stronger, leading me deeper into the abyss. Then I heard it, a faint, chilling melody like a distant music box. My pulse quickened as I followed the haunting tune, turning corners and climbing broken staircases. The melody grew louder, and I knew I was getting closer. Finally, I reached a dimly lit room at the heart of the building. There, sitting on a dusty table, was my iPhone, its screen glowing softly in the darkness. The melody emanated from it, a haunting reminder of its journey into this forsaken place. But as I reached out to reclaim it, the room plunged into darkness. Panic welled up within me as I fumbled for the phone, but it slipped through my fingers, crashing to the floor. The room fell silent, and I strained to hear any sign of movement. Then, a voice whispered from the shadows, "You shouldn't have come here." Terrified, I tried to escape, but the door had slammed shut, trapping me in the darkness. I fumbled to unlock my iPhone, using its feeble light to reveal the room's horrors. I was not alone. Figures, cloaked in shadows, surrounded me, their eyes gleaming with malevolence. They were the thieves, the ones who had stolen my iPhone and led me into this nightmarish trap. In a desperate bid for survival, I activated the phone's flashlight and blinded my attackers, allowing me to slip past them and make a run for the door. I burst into the cold night, leaving the haunting melody and the sinister figures behind. As I reached the safety of the street, my heart still racing, I realized that I had faced something beyond the ordinary. My iPhone had been the bait, luring me into a terrifying ordeal, and I had narrowly escaped with my life. From that day on, I never underestimated the power of technology, nor the lengths to which some would go to steal it. My iPhone had led me on a cinematic journey through darkness and fear, and I emerged from it with a chilling tale that I would never forget. The sun was setting, casting a warm orange glow over the tranquil lakeside. I had decided to spend a peaceful weekend camping alone, away from the hustle and bustle of the city. It was a chance to disconnect, to immerse myself in nature, and to find a sense of serenity that had been missing from my life. As I set up my campsite, the chirping of birds and the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze provided the perfect soundtrack to my solitude. The lake shimmered, reflecting the changing colors of the sky, and I felt a sense of contentment wash over me. That evening, I sat by the campfire, its crackling flames mesmerizing me as I roasted marshmallows and gazed at the star-filled sky. The thought of checking my iPhone had briefly crossed my mind, but I resisted the temptation. This was a moment to savor the simplicity of life. As I lay in my tent that night, I was awoken by an eerie sound, a faint and haunting melody that seemed to echo from the depths of the forest. Goosebumps prickled my skin as I realized it was a song, an old mournful tune that seemed to come from a bygone era. Curiosity got the better of me, and I grabbed my flashlight, venturing into the woods to find the source of the haunting melody. It led me deeper into the forest, the trees looming like silent sentinels. After what felt like an eternity, I stumbled upon a clearing where a group of people, cloaked in tattered robes and illuminated by the soft light of torches, stood in a circle. In the center, a man with a long, flowing beard played a mournful tune on a wooden flute. I watched in astonishment, hidden in the shadows, as the group performed a strange, ritualistic dance. They moved with an eerie grace, their faces illuminated by the flickering torchlight. My heart raced as I realized this was something far beyond my understanding. That's when I felt it, the vibration in my pocket, the familiar buzz of my iPhone receiving a notification. My hand instinctively reached for it, and in that moment, the haunting tune ceased, and all eyes turned to me. Their expressions were a mix of curiosity and something darker, something I couldn't quite comprehend. As I stared at the illuminated screen, a message from an unknown number appeared. "You've intruded upon something you shouldn't have." The phone dropped from my trembling hand, and I knew I had made a grave mistake. Terrified and uncertain of what I had stumbled upon, I turned and fled from the clearing, crashing through the underbrush and sprinting back to my campsite. The haunting melody still echoed in my ears, and I knew I had narrowly escaped something beyond my understanding. Back at my campsite, I sat by the smoldering remains of the campfire, my heart pounding. It was then that I made a decision, a realization born from the depths of that eerie forest. My iPhone, with its endless notifications and constant distractions, had led me into a situation I never should have been in. With a deep breath, I turned off my phone and tossed it into the lake, watching the ripples spread across the water as it sank into the depths. It was a symbolic act, a declaration of my intent to abandon the device that had brought me to the edge of something inexplicable and dangerous. As I settled into my tent once more, the forest around me seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, and I closed my eyes, finding solace in the silence, knowing that in that moment I had chosen my own well-being over the digital world that had once consumed me.